Hey, what's up guys? Let's talk about Fooly Cooly Progressive, or Fooly Cooly Season 2, whatever you'd like to call it, or as some of you might refer to it as FLCL. This anime series is perhaps my favorite show of all time, and I couldn't be more excited for the new episodes that we're going to get here in the second and third seasons. It's been 18 years, I guess 15 if you started watching with the English dub, since we've seen anything from Fooly Cooly, so this is very exciting. For those of you who want my thoughts on the original show, you can check out a really old review that I did that's a little bit cringeworthy but still a bit fun and short. But here I want to talk about Season 2, Fooly Cooly Progressive, and Episode 1, Restart. Now this is my first time ever doing like an episode review, so there will be some spoilers. There's definitely a lot I want to talk about, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys thought too. Okay, so in this first episode we're introduced to a brand new character in the series named Hidomi. Right away we see that she is in some weird dreamlike state, and she might be some kind of ghost or zombie or something. We get a lot of interesting and familiar dialogue from her about, you know, nothing amazing happens here, everything is ordinary, things we're used to hearing from the character Naota in the original show. And of course we've got that great soundtrack and music once again from the band The Pillows. I was so excited to hear that they would be coming back, and the music that they delivered in this episode was exactly what I was looking for. We get to hear a couple new tracks in here, as well as kind of a remixed version of an old one in Little Busters, and you better believe when that came on that I got really excited. So we see Hidomi transform into a really crisp, cool looking robot, and at the same time we see these medical mechanica plants in unison start heading toward her. Eventually she wakes up and we see that everything is just fine. We get to see a nice brief moment here with her mom, and I absolutely adored this relationship that we got to start with these two characters. Every time they were on screen, the humor worked really well. I really enjoyed the balance of her mom's cheerfulness versus Hidomi's kind of blah and not really into everything. So the beginning definitely didn't start off with such a bang like we saw with Fooly Cooly, but it definitely has that vibe, and as this episode went on, it definitely introduced a lot of interesting things. I really enjoyed all the classroom scenes for these junior high students. We're introduced to quite a lot of characters in this episode, which was really interesting. The other main one, it appears, being a boy named Ide, or Aide. I'll make sure to get that one right next time. We don't really know what happened to him in this episode, but they hint at a lot of things that make you wonder, okay, I see where this is going. It's reminding me of what we might have seen before with Haruko. But I like how this series is introducing two main characters going through the same situation versus just one in Naota. With that, we don't get a whole lot of Haruko, but we are introduced to another person by the name of Jinyu. I really like this character so far. She has a really interesting design. It's pretty cool that she has a Chevy Bel Air and these really interesting sunglasses, and of course a rad guitar. But I think what makes this character so interesting so far is her sort of monotone voice and the way she describes things in complete opposite fashion. When she hits Hidomi with her car, she apologizes by saying, unfortunately, it didn't end her life. And of course her mom reacts in a normal way and say, well, that's great, but isn't that a good thing? There's a few other lines like that I thought worked really great, made it really funny. Now, the teacher that we saw in this episode I thought was pretty fascinating, and I could kind of tell there was something off about her. I ended up predicting that would be Haruko in the end. Speaking of Haruko, I absolutely love that they got the character in this show and that we got to see Carrie Walgren come back. She does such a fantastic job. Her voice is just so energetic and fun. Near the end, when you can really start to hear Haruko's voice coming out from the teacher, I love the way that was done, and we got to see the transition of it being different, you know, sounds into the actual voice. That worked really well. I also like a lot of the things they did with Hidomi's character. It seems like she has some interesting things that we don't quite know about as far as her father, which was kind of a contrast and difference to what we didn't know about Naota's mother. But I like her personality so far. I like that she wears these really cool looking headphones, and there's these funny moments where she just looks like a completely different person. They sort of show her inner self, maybe what she feels like she appears on the outside, and it's just like this kind of, I don't know, purple cat figure thing. And of course, it wouldn't be Fooly Cooly if there wasn't at least one action fight sequence. And we get to see one, although a little brief. We get to see a cool one featuring Jinyu, at which she ends up helping Hidomi and Aide. And then later we find out that she is now Hidomi's housemaid. What does that remind you of? So overall, I thought this was a really fascinating introduction for the new Fooly Cooly world that we're about to see. It seems like they're going for something that's a little bit less confusing than the original show, but it definitely feels like things are going to start getting a lot crazier from this episode on. Like, what it really felt was almost like a big tease and a preview for what we're going to see. The animation is, of course, stellar, and it looks a bit different, but at the same time so much like what we're used to seeing. I mean, it has been about 18 years since Fooly Cooly came out, so things have changed. You know, we don't get those black bars on the left and right anymore. It fills the whole screen. These characters have things like cell phones, you know, technology has changed. It's more updated modern Japan, of which I believe still takes place in Mabase. They did not actually clarify that in this episode, despite showing you the outer area, which I would assume is the same place. So I'm really excited to see how we develop all these characters and where things are going to go. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with Naota. I hope he actually appears at some point in the show, because after all, he did end up keeping Haruko's guitar, so does she have a new one, or what's going on there? I'm looking forward to watching this every week, whether I'm recording it on Adult Swim or checking out on the website. And if you guys enjoyed this, let me know if you want to see what I think of future episodes. I'd love to keep doing more if you guys are enjoying them. I really want to know what you thought of this episode and how you think things are going to go. I have to say, this episode was as good as I really could have hoped for. And not only that, but this is season 2, and then we have a third one coming out in Fooly Cooly Alternative. I can't wait. Alright, that's it from me, guys. If you enjoyed the review, subscribe to my channel while this video ends, and send me a thumbs up before you go. Thanks for watching, and stay diligent.